Welcome to the Jeff Eby Show. Jeff Eby Show, where the talk is all about Dickson County.
Hey, we welcome you to the Jeff Eby Show, where the talk is all about Dickson County. Please like and share this video. If you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on YouTube, please share and give me the thumbs up. And also, we're on Spotify, and you can listen to it as you go down the road and get all the content that we provide here. Today, we're doing a little bit different show in that my friend Justin Spurlock, who's a teacher at Dickson County High School, a history teacher, he's actually going to be interviewing me today. So we thought we would do this, and he's going to actually put it on his show, and I'm going to have it on my show, so you can watch it like in multiple places. So we're really excited to kind of get started. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and let you take over and do your thing.
Well, thank you, Jeff, for letting me come on the show. I truly appreciate it. It's one of the things that I've been trying to do in this election cycle is just kind of sit down with as many of the candidates as I can and interview them and just put the information out for the public. Sure. And so when I contacted you, you offered your studio here, and I can't thank you enough for that.
Yeah, sure.
So this is usually how I introduce my podcast. This is the 2022 Dickson County Election Podcast, and I usually let people know a little bit about me, which is you already mentioned that I'm a teacher, but I also write a column in the local newspaper, the Dickson Post.
I see, yeah.
And it's always fun to do. It's usually about local history. And then on Saturday mornings, I have a radio show on WDKN that we do, where we usually interview old-timers and business owners and have a lot of fun with that. But this particular show, I've been trying to, like I said before, interview different candidates. And usually how I start is usually giving you a chance. They don't really want to hear from me as much as they want to hear from you. I just want to kind of ask you a few questions and guide the conversation here and just talk a little bit about you and why you decided to run. But I usually like to start with asking people about their early life and kind of take me back to the beginning of Jeff and what was your childhood like?
Yeah, well, I grew up in Nashville. My parents actually met at Trevecca Nazarene University. My dad was from Florida. My mom was from Kentucky. So they met, and then my dad eventually started an insurance agency back in 1962. So eventually that all worked into me taking that over at some point, when he retired or whatever. But so I grew up in Nashville, went to McGavock High School, which is at that time the biggest high school in Nashville. My graduating class was 1,200 people, so that just kind of gives you an indication of how large that school was, And that was the beginning of when they started integrating all the schools. So I was right there when that all happened, So so they basically combined 3 high schools into one, into a big, huge high school. So I guess that concept works. I mean, there was a lot of different type of classes that you could take. I was a kind of a music major, so they had a whole music department that you could take music classes and stuff. So so I kind of gravitated toward that. So and then I went to Trevecca Nazarene University for a couple of years, and then was a music major, and then decided that probably I'm not going to make a ton of money doing that, So I switched to music business, went to Belmont. Then I decided that I was just going to go straight business, so I went to MTSU and then went through the ROTC program there at MTSU and got commissioned, and of course had a career in the Army and everything. So I'm married. My wife, Sharice, of 38 years, and have 2 daughters. They both went through the public school system. Leah went to Vanderbilt, and by the way, for those of you who don't know this, but when we didn't know it either, but when she got accepted to Vanderbilt, of course, you know how expensive that is, right? So we were like really sweating it and all that, but she had some scholarships, but we didn't realize that somebody from Dickson County has donated money to Vanderbilt to pay for kids that are from Dickson County.
Wow, I didn't know.
I know, we didn't either until we got our first bill, and I'm going, oh wow. Thank you. You know.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, but it was like a $25,000 a year scholarship.
Wow.
Yeah. So really, she went to Vanderbilt for about what it cost to go to a public school. You know, with her scholarships and that scholarship. So
that's awesome.
We were
great opportunity.
Yeah, no doubt. So she went on to medical school, and now she's a physician. She was at Horizon as a hospitalist for a while, but she has now taken a job at the Frisk Clinic. She's a PCP at the Frisk Clinic. My youngest daughter went to Belmont, and she was a cheerleader all through high school. So she cheered at Belmont, went to nursing school, and then she decided to go to nurse practitioner school. So she's a nurse practitioner now. So my wife's a nurse. So fortunately, they got all that from her. So they've both got successful careers in medicine. My oldest daughter, Leah, is married to a doctor. They met at medical school. He's a ER doctor. And my youngest daughter is married to a broker for a mortgage company and stuff. So they're doing really well, and we're just so thankful. And we're so thankful of a school system that was able to give them that opportunity, you know, to get educated to a point where they could succeed like that. So we're really proud of them. I was, you know, of course, again, I was in the I've been in the military for 30 years. Mm-hmm. I was deployed in 03 and 04, just north of Baghdad. We were there for a little over a year or so. And when I got back, I decided, you know, seeing how, you know, I've been all over the world with the military and see how all these different type of government work, right? And I've seen how people are really underrepresented or not even represented at all, you know, in some of those cases. And so I decided when I got back and talking to my wife, Cherise, that I wanted to go ahead and see what I could do in politics a little bit, you know. So I first ran for a constable, got elected, and then later on I decided to go ahead and run for county commissioner. So I did that, got elected, and I've been a county commissioner now for 8 years. And I've really enjoyed that, working with, you know, I get a lot of calls from people on various things going on. And here's one thing that surprised me. Like when somebody would call me and I would call them back, they would like be surprised that I called them back. And I'm thinking, well, you know, that's what we're supposed to do, right?
Right.
You know, so I enjoy that and seeing people, you know, get some help with what the county can do, you know, for them where they are. So I've really enjoyed that. So my next step was, you know, I'd thought about at a state level, but of course, you know, it's hard to run against an incumbent. And then when the seat came available, you know, it was like, okay, this is my time. If I'm ever going to do it, this is the time to do it. You know?
Tell me, so mentioning that, Michael Curcio had held the seat for many years.
Yeah.
And he'd, you know, been reelected several times. And honestly, I was kind of surprised.
I was too.
When the news came
shocked.
out. Yeah, I was going to ask you, what was your immediate reaction when you heard the news?
Yeah, I was like, actually, I didn't hear. Bob Ryle called me and told me, and I said, really? And he kind of encouraged me. Said, you know, if you ever thought about running, this is the time to do it. You know, so. Yeah, I was really shocked about that. And I've had Michael on my show for several times, you know, and talking about what's going on at the state level and everything. So I like Michael a lot. I think he's a wealth of knowledge, and he's going to do well whatever he does. And I know he just took a position as a lobbyist with a firm in Nashville. So he's going to be successful whatever he does.
Well, take me back just a little bit, because I appreciate you know, kind of taking us from the beginning to kind of where we are now. That's how I love to start the show. But tell me, what was it that initially wanted, you know, that caused you to want to get into politics?
Yeah,
overall?
I think it was, like I said, it was seeing people and how governments don't work. You know, like I said, I've been all around the world and just seeing how different governments work. And I've actually, when I was in Iraq, we had to work with the government and with the people to try to, you know, bring some resolutions to some of the conflicts that they had. So, you know, that gave me a lot of experience working with different, like the government and the people kind of as a mediator, to kind of see how kind of this thing works, you know. And then when I got back, you know, I just had that experience, and I thought, you know, this is something that I could continue on in the government sector here. So that's kind of why I decided to run.
Tell me a little bit about, so you got constable first, mm-hmm. then county commission, and now we're going for state house. But kind of guide me through those. And since you've held multiple positions, I'd like for you to maybe even start at constable and tell us what exactly is a constable.
Yeah.
I've done some research on this, but I'd say most people in general public,
Yeah,
don't know a lot about what it is.
And actually, last time I ran, I put together a little video that in fact, Matt, my producer, he helped me with that, and we kind of had a back and forth about what a constable is. But a constable, it's like an old law, actually before sheriffs were here, right? So the constables kind of control the law enforcement in the counties and stuff. Now, if you go to like some of these western states, like Texas and some of these other states, their constables are really involved in everything law enforcement wise, So, but the difference between, I guess, a constable and let's say a deputy sheriff is that a constable is elected by the people for a certain area of the county that you represent, but you really represent the whole county. But you're only accountable to the people that you're elected by. Now, I work, and most of the constables work with like the sheriff's department, and I train with the Dixon City Police Department through their 40 hours. We have to do our 40 hours just like the deputies or the city police officers do. So I've just kind of gravitated toward the city. I enjoyed working with those guys, and they really I think appreciate me coming through their program. And
can a constable pull you over and arrest you is the question people always ask.
Yes, but I haven't done that, and I probably wouldn't do that unless I just saw something blatant that was going on, right?
Sure.
I mean, it's not our job to go around and pull people over for speeding or whatever. I mean, that's the city guys and the county guys or whatever, but we assist in that. So in a lot of times the constables will work the fair or work some of these events that it kind of relieves the other police officers from coming off the street to do that. So there's a place for them, and it really depends upon the sheriff's department, whether the sheriff's department supports the constables or not. And this sheriff does. He really does.
Okay.
And we really appreciate that about him. So he's willing. Some of the constables actually ride with some of the deputy sheriffs, and just as a backup or whatever. And I think they really appreciate that they've got somebody else in the car that as their backup or whatever. So
is that a 4-year term?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. Just checking.
It's the opposite of when the county commissioner runs. So it's like the county commissioner runs, and then 2 years later it's the constable's time to run. So.
And how many constables are there?
There are 6.
Okay. So two districts?
Yes, 6, yeah.
Okay.
2 per district. I mean, 1 per 2 districts. Yeah. Yeah, that's the way it goes.
Interesting. So currently you are serving as a county commissioner.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that, because that's sort of the legislative body of the county, and you're wanting to move up to the state house,
Right.
and so that's kind of a county level of the same thing, but I'll
Right.
let you kind of explain how
Right.
that works.
Yeah, at the county commission level, basically what we do is like zoning requests we approve. Of course, that initially goes to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they take that and they recommend it to us. So then it comes to the commission for a full vote, whether to change a zoning request or not. The other thing, that's a large part of what we do. The other thing is the budget. So we approve or not approve the budget for the county and for the school system also. The thing about the school system is that when we get their budget, it's a total budget that we have to pass or reject. We cannot tell Dr. Weeks, maybe you ought to change this line item or this line. We can't do that. We have to pass it. It's under an old law in Tennessee. And I think maybe some of the counties have changed that now, where the commissioners can actually have some input into the actual budget for the school. But for Dixon County, that's not the case. So we approve or don't approve the budget as a whole. And we just did approve the budget for this coming up year.
Pretty big budget too. I think $75 million I was reading.
Yeah, that's for the school. That's the school system.
That's the school, just the schools.
Just the school system.
Yeah. So
yeah. Now a lot of that is federal funding and state funding, and then the county's got their part too. But it's a pretty large budget. It's the largest. Well, the teachers are the largest the county employee. Their largest employer is the teachers.
Explain to me how your experience working for the county commission will sort of correlate or help you with the new position, 69th State House district seat.
Yeah, of course, at the state level, you actually enact laws, pass laws. As a county commissioner, you don't do that. We fall under the state basically for all that. So at the commission level, like I said, you're just doing zoning requests. We do when somebody requests a speed limit change or to put in stop signs at this location or whatever, or things of that nature. Of course, at the state level, now you're coming up with bills that you want to pass that affect the whole state, and you actually can change code, the legal code, and there's a lot of things that you do at the state level. I think at the county commission level, it kind of gives you for me, it's kind of given me an idea of how the government works a little bit better. And I know at the state level, it's really different. But I think, it's you hate to say a stepping stone, but it's what kind of gives me the basic knowledge about how things work and how to work with people to try to get things done for the county or the state or whatever.
So take me through that decision. We already talked about your initial reaction to the fact that Representative Curcio was no longer going to seek re-election,
right,
which opened things up. And I think there's 7 candidates, if I'm not mistaken, that have kind of thrown their name in the hat. So what kind of motivated you to do that? Because you already constable, already county commission, seemed to be pretty comfortable in those roles. What made you want to step up and reach for something a little higher?
Well, I think, like I said, at the county level, I'm able to help people with certain things in the county, right? At the state level, I think, part of the thing, as you may or may not know, I'm a big proponent of public education. And for the past month or so, I've gone around to some of the schools. Dr. Weeks allowed me to do this and talk to some teachers to try to find out, what their issues were, what some of the things that they, felt like needed to change or whatever. And, one of the things that, at the county commission, we say it every year when the budget comes up, teachers need more money, right? But it just never seems to materialize, and one of the things at the state level that I'm looking at is allowing the teachers to come under the state health insurance and benefits. That would free up, if we could do that, and I know it's an expensive, because I've looked at it, and it's an expensive process for the state, but to me it's only fair. And that would enable the county, it would free up some more money to allow in the budget for the teachers to get a raise. Because I've talked to several teachers about the benefit package, and it's pretty expensive, especially if you add on like a spouse or a family coverage. It's pretty high. Mm-hmm. It can get up to like $1,000 a month or so. And that, for the pay that they're making, that's really cuts into your budget and your pay, So that's kind of one of the things I'm going to be looking at once I get to the state level. So I'm a big proponent of education and our public education. I'm not really a big proponent of charter schools and things of that nature. I think that just takes away from funding that we need at our public schools. So, and yesterday, actually, I was down at a business in Hohenwald. It was called Somerville Metals, and or is it Summertown? Yeah, I think it's Summertown Metals. Anyway, one of the things that they're having a struggle with is getting employees, right? And they've taken some employees from the TDAC or the TCAT school system, because they have a welding program and things of that nature. But one of the things that they were talking to me about is the fact that if they could tailor some of their programs for their actual needs, it would really help them out a lot. So these communities that have these employers, we really need a strong program to go from high school into this program right into the workforce. And so, that's something that can be kind of handled at the state level also, to try to help these schools tailor their programs to the employers. I think it's really important.
So my understanding is sometimes it's kind of difficult up there on the hill
Yeah.
in Nashville. You got to work with other people, so you're not necessarily an executive that just gets to
Right.
make all decisions. You got to work with people.
Right.
So what would I know you got a good background as far as you've already held some government positions here at the county level, and I'm sure that'll serve you well. But maybe focusing a little more on your personality, your characteristics. About yourself, what kind of things about you might make you a good person to for this job, and specifically for working with others, because that's really what the job is all about, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You have to get along with your colleagues, even across the aisle. And I like to build bridges between what people believe, and I don't take like a hard stance so much that I won't listen to somebody else. I know there's personalities that do that. I'm not one of those. I want to listen to the other side, and let's see what we can common ground that we can find, that we can work from. Once you can get that common ground, then I think you can persuade people to come over to your side. And I know that it's a give and take, quite a bit also. But I think I have the personality that I work with people. I can listen to the other side and try to understand where they're coming from, and then try to figure out how we can come together to try to make Tennessee better, to try to make the lives of teachers better, or every citizen better, and things that we can do to do that. So that's really my personality. That's kind of what I do.
What would you do differently? Not necessarily differently than Representative Curcio, but I mean that's obviously the seat and the person that was occupying that seat prior. But just kind of overall looking at the state legislature and the way that they do things, what is something that maybe you would do different, or a way that you would approach it that's a little different than the way it's been done in the past?
Well, Michael, he was on, I think, the legal committee. What do they?
Criminal Justice.
Yeah, Criminal Justice Committee. And I probably would have a different committee that I would be on. I'm hoping like education or something like that. So Michael did a great job. He had a lot of bills coming out of his committee. Here's the problem. Here's what I've seen, and I'm kind of I watch the legislative process, and I watch those committee meetings and stuff.
It's interesting to watch.
I know, it really is.
I love watching them.
Yeah. So here's what bothers me. The Republicans are supposed to have a supermajority, right?
Right.
So you would think that some of these bills that come up in committee would just fly through. It just wouldn't be a big deal. And then, you see that they don't even make it out of committee, and you're thinking, why? I don't understand this, And I know a lot has to do with who they get money from, because you just don't understand why a certain bill, being a Republican supermajority, why it just wouldn't fly through, but it doesn't. So, somehow, in the committee, everything starts in the committee. If it don't make it out of the committee, it's a done. It's dead. It's you don't even. It's right. Gone. Right. So those committees are very important. So, working with the committee members behind the scenes to try to, when you're wanting a bill to come up in the committee, you really have to work with all the different legislators to make sure that they'll support this bill when it comes in committee. And some of them I've seen, even if they say they do, when they get to the committee, they don't, So I don't know if they get pressure from whoever, I don't know. But so just working with these legislators, on a bipartisan approach to try to get them to, see that what you want to do is very important to the state and to the people who live in the state. So,
speaking of lobbyists, as you mentioned at the beginning of the show, Representative Curcio is now working with a lobbyist firm. There have been some people that have been talking a lot about that, and about money getting taken. What's your whole philosophy on that whole thing, lobbyists and taking money?
Well, I don't know if it's... That's the way our system works. Now, whether it's good or bad, I know there's companies that lobby, and obviously that's what lobbyists for, lobby for them to get certain things passed in the legislature. It's the same way at the federal level, except like 10 times magnitude worse, But, you know, I guess there's a place for those people, you know. Now, lobbyists can't give money to anybody. It has to come through, you know, a PAC or, you know, a company or whatever, you know. But, and I know that you know, persuades a lot of people. And, you know, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. You know, for me, I would never compromise my beliefs and compromise what I want to do based on what any lobbyist would want to do for me. I'm just not going to do it. You know, that's just my core belief. So there's certain things that I just won't compromise on. That's just it, you know.
Let's talk a little more about your platform. You've already kind of mentioned, as I've been asking some of these other questions, you've given us a little bit of a preview about some of the things that you would focus on, you know, if you were to get this position. And one thing you've mentioned is teachers and education, and I appreciate that. But what else is on your platform? What else would, if you were able to get this job, would you really want to focus on up there?
Well, you know, I'm a pro supporter of First Amendment. You know, so you know we have some issues with social media and some of the you know conservative people that's being deplatformed, and I think you know. Some of the states have kind of taken that on. Now, whether that works in an overall level, I don't know. I'm not sure how well that's being done. But we really need to shore up our First Amendment protection for Tennesseans. The other thing is our Second Amendment. Now, I know that you know it's been in the news, and they're trying to strip away some of our Second Amendment rights. I'm a very strong supporter of the Second Amendment. Again, the Second Amendment. Our forefathers, and you know this as a history teacher, but our forefathers didn't write the Second Amendment for hunting or self-protection, really, or anything. It's to prevent the government from having a tyranny over the population. That's what the Second Amendment was for, right? Every dictator that's taken away guns, for instance, Stalin, you know, he took away the guns and he killed like 20 million of his people. Mao did it and killed 50 million of his people, right? So there's a precedent that's really kind of scary, right? So, you know, so I'm a real strong supporter of the Second Amendment. Now, as related to schools, Dickson County does a pretty good job of security in our schools. You know, as you know, we have an officer, a resource officer in every school, which I think is great, and it's limited access. So I think they're taking the proper steps to really keep our kids safe and everything. Now, you know, and I didn't realize this when I had Mark Green on my show a couple of weeks ago. You know, the state legislature passed a bill that allows teachers to carry guns in schools. Is that a good thing? You know, I think it would be a good thing if the teachers had to go through training and were trained to a level of proficiency that would allow them to do that. And I think that's just another step that would maybe harden our schools a little bit more. If somebody who wanted to cause harm in our schools knew that there was more than a resource officer that was armed, I think it might give them a second thought about, you know, do I really want to do this or not, you know? So
that's pretty interesting. Let's talk just a little bit more about that because I don't think people know about that right. particular law that was passed.
Right.
Can you explain, like, how long ago was that?
I think it was maybe last year. I'm not sure because I didn't know for sure either. And Representative Green and I were talking, and he said, yeah, you know, that passed at state Tennessee.
I remember hearing about it, but I kind of forgot about it.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Now, I guess it would be up to the individual, you know, districts whether they actually want to allow teachers to do that or not. But legally, teachers can be armed in the school now. So, you know, I think that's something we need to look at and see if that's something that would harden up our schools just a little bit more and just make it more of a deterrent for anybody who wanted to try to come in and cause harm to our students. Because, you know, our students they're our future, right? They're the ones that's going to be the county commissioners and the state representatives, you know. So that's why I think it's so important for public education to be able to allow these kids to get the best education they can get so they're prepared to move on in life, you know, because they're our future, right? So, if we're not taking care of what our future is going to be, I mean, where are we going to be in 10 years,
That's a good point. Let's talk a little bit about Dixon County
Okay.
because I love your show. I tune in every chance that I get. You get some really interesting guests, and the show is all about Dixon County.
Right.
And as you mentioned at the beginning of the show,
I think I saw your tagline on that now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, hey, it's what people want to hear.
Oh, I know,
And I've
yeah.
talked to several people about that, and one of the motivations for doing the show was, if you want to know about, national politics, there's
tons of those.
tons of media options for you, right?
Right.
And even more at the greater Nashville area or the state level, you've got, Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 5, Fox 17 News
Right.
that you can tune into, and they'll do a little about Dixon, right? But not a whole lot.
Right.
But there's a hunger for more information locally here, and so that's why I love your show, and that's why I try to do what I do is really to kind of put a focus on the local. But I was a little more fortunate than you. I was actually born here,
Right.
and you were born in Nashville, and I won't hold that against you.
Okay.
But you got over here pretty quickly,
Right.
and you
my
seem-
girls were all raised here, so.
that's why we'll give you a pass.
Okay.
But so tell me a little bit about what you love about Dixon, because obviously you've made this your home. You've raised
Right.
your kids here. You're, I assume, going to probably stick around.
Oh, yeah.
You've been pretty involved, so I assume that your long-term goal is to stay here. But tell me a little bit about why you chose Dixon and what you love about it.
Well, originally, when my oldest daughter was young, and we were living in Nashville, and she's getting ready to start school, we decided, we looked at the schools, and I really didn't want her to go to Nashville schools. I just didn't think that was an appropriate system. All schools got their problems, but, I didn't think that we really wanted to put her there. So my dad actually moved out here first. He took over Camp Garner Creek, which is out on Garner Creek Road. It's a church camp. And he started running that probably 30 years ago, and he kind of turned that into what it is now. It's a really nice campground. A lot of groups come in there, a lot of church groups come in there and do retreats, and it's a really nice place. So when he did that, and then eventually he just moved out here, and so when we were at that point, we were wanting to do something else. We decided to go ahead and make the move and come out here. And we originally bought a house in Burns. And, of course, so then my girls went to Burns Elementary and then to the middle school and to the high school. So that's kind of what got us out here. But, we fell in love. Originally, my wife, she was like, I don't know if I really want to move to a small community like that. But once you get out here, it's like, wow, man, this is awesome. Especially, what's been going on lately, especially with the downtown area, it's been really revitalized, and there's a lot of great restaurants and just entertainment going on in the downtown area. This is a great community. We love this community. We eventually built a house out off of near the campground. In fact, our property backs up to them. And my dad built a house out there. We built a house out there. So we're here for life. So we really, like I say, we love this community, and it's just really become a part of who we are.
I love Dixon County, and most of the people that live here,
I know.
I think love it too. And I focus on the past a lot because I'm a history teacher, and
Right.
I like to look back on things. But from time to time, I look forward as well. And I get to thinking about, what's this place going to look like down the road? Because it's very different than, even 20 years ago. As you
Right.
mentioned, this downtown area was much different. When I
Yes.
first started working at
me too,
WDKN,
yeah.
when I was in high school, it was so much different than it is now. And so just kind of looking forward, I mean, whether you're on the commission or whether you're in the State House, you represent Dixon County, right? So tell me, what do you see for the future of Dixon County? There's this growth that's happening.
Oh, yes,
and people
absolutely.
want Dixon to remain rural.
Right.
But we kind of have the best of both worlds right now. You go out here to a farm, and then a few minutes later, you're right here in the city.
Exactly.
But it's changing.
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about the future of Dixon.
Well, when the commission undertook a couple of issues about zoning for building houses, we started thinking, I think most of us did, that, we need to have a plan, for how this growth is going to happen. You want growth, but you want it to be more controlled growth. You just don't want growth for growth's sake, because then you're going to end up with certain areas you're not really pleased with or aesthetically pleasing or whatever. So the commission is now working on a county plan, growth plan. And I think they're supposed to be done with that maybe in 6 months or so. And we've kind of halted some rezoning until this plan kind of gets done. And I know the builders, you know, they don't want any restrictions on what they do. And I kind of understand that. But in the same sense, we do need to have certain restrictions. So, I mean, we got to figure out what do we want to look at like in 20 years, you know? Do we want to have row houses everywhere in 20 years? You know, I don't think that's what the community wants, you know? I think we want growth, but we want it controlled growth. We want to work with builders to make sure that we have enough in here, because we're low on housing now, you know? I mean, there's not enough housing to go around right now. So, and that's probably just going to get worse, right? So, you know, we want to work with builders to make sure that, you know, when they buy property, that they do the proper things to make sure once those houses are built, that they're still maintained and, you know, they don't have any issues with, you know, water or whatever, you know. So, so the growth is coming. It's coming. It's you know, if you look at Nashville, if you look like north, east, and south, there's been a ton of growth, right? Mm-hmm. West has just kind of been slowly growing. But I think now that people are realizing that you can still relatively buy cheaper property here, you know, that a lot of people are moving out here, or a lot of people are moving from California. I'm surprised every day at all the people that I talk to that they've come out here from California. Or some of those states. I'm thinking, wow, how did you know about Dixon? You know,
well, they referred to by friends.
Yes.
I can tell you this from my experience in real estate, working for Redbird Realty, and I've been on some different transactions where, you know, we work with some people from, out of state, several people from California, and that's what I ask them too. How did you know about this?
Know.
Well, my friend moved out here, and and then we see how much they love it, and they're having a great time, and their cost of living's a lot different in Tennessee than it is in California, and they look like they're having a great life, and then we come out here to visit them. And the next thing you know, we're looking at houses, and then we're backing up a U-Haul truck, and then they're here.
Right.
And and most of them, they love this area for the same reason that we do, right? And there's a reason why they're moving here, and so I've enjoyed them, and a lot of those are the ones that follow the newspaper article that I do.
They get more involved.
Yeah, they love it, and they want to know more, and then they'll ask extra questions. I had somebody send me a message the other day, and said, "You don't know me, but I read your newspaper article, and I'm new around here, and I just had a few questions, and and I'm glad to answer them. Glad you're here, glad you love it here. Here's the answers to your questions.
Right.
Check out the article this week. Hopefully you like that as well.
Sure.
So, it's coming. They're coming, and just and there's been some good people that moved here too. So
part of the premise for my show was to get people more motivated in local politics, right? Mm-hmm. So, we encourage people, all politics is really local.
Yeah.
The local politics is what affects people's lives. Now, I know at the national level, that's the whole, everybody gets kind of excited about or whatever, but really the local level is what affects your everyday life.
Absolutely.
So I encourage people to know who your county commissioner is, know who your state representative is, but unfortunately, there's a lot of people that don't, right? So one of the premise of our show is to really get, and that's why I bring on, all these local politicians, and of course, we've had on a ton of people, and we just want to talk about what's going on in Dixon County, because a lot of these people that move in from like California, they don't know, right? So they can tune in and kind of get an idea of how how our system works and who does this job or who does that or whatever, So that's kind of the impetus of what's helped really start the show, because I really want to get people involved locally.
And you're kind of leading into my next question, because I wanted to ask you, what started your love for the for this, and what made you want to do the show? Because for me, my love for this sort of platform and for talking on the radio goes back to when I was in high school. I was lucky enough to get a job over at WDKN as a 16-year-old, actually, and got to work there through high school, and then I got to do the same thing in college. And so that was sort of my motivation for kind of getting back into this, because it was an old love that I had. And I've always wanted to ask you, never had the opportunity, but, what was your motivation behind starting this particular show?
Well, I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago when we were discussing the whole fuel depot thing, right?
Sure, yeah.
You know, whether you agree with that or don't agree with it, what happened was there was a lot of talk on Facebook and some of these social media platforms that was just people were just uninformed. They were making accusations that weren't even near the truth, you know. You know, some of them were, you know, the county commissioners were getting paid off or whatever, you know, and I'm thinking, well, I really wish I knew where that money was if I was getting paid off, right?
Yeah.
But so I decided that there has to be some media that people, you know, you can actually have people on that tell you exactly how this works, how it happened, and, you know, kind of negate all the rumors and everything. So that was kind of the reason why I started the show. And I think my first guest was the sheriff. I think he was running at the time. And then I'd had Bob Ryle on. We talked about that a little bit, you know. So, and it just kind of moved on from there, you know. But you know, that was kind of the reason that I got it started.
Well, and that kind of same thing for me as far as doing this podcast for the elected officials and people running for office was, you know, a couple of years ago when we had the sheriff's race, we had a lot of people running, and I didn't really
Right.
know any of them,
Right.
so I just started trying to reach out to them to meet each one of them, and you know, that's tough. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, almost everybody was willing to come meet me though and talk to me, and that was great. But if there would have been a show back then that I could have watched that would have given me just at least a little bit of information about the candidates, I would have really appreciated it back then.
Right.
And so that's kind of been my motivation as well. And like we said before, you know, there's not a whole lot of local media. We got a couple of newspapers. We got a great radio station, and I'm very thankful for them. And we even have a TV station that's coming in.
Right.
It's going now, but hopefully there will be some local programming on there. And I've talked with Mr. Kenneth Forte about that.
Yeah, you know, we had him on my
He's
show and we talked about that.
Yeah. It's good stuff in the works there.
Right.
But tell me just a little bit about the future of the show, because I know when I first got in here, right before we started recording, you were kind of giving me a hint about, you know, some things that you might be wanting to do in the future. Would you be wanting to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, you know, we wrapped up our second season with our Congressman Mark Green, and that was obviously it was a great show. So if you hadn't seen it, I encourage people to go look at that. But you know, I started thinking about, you know, one of my things that I really want to accomplish is transparency with our representatives, right? So I'm not saying that they haven't been transparent. I'm saying that a lot of times people don't know how to get in touch to talk to, you know, the representative. Of course, you got email and all that, but so one of the things that I would like to do is to take my show there to the Hill and have different legislators on to talk about, you know, the current bills that they're trying to get through committee, and talk about what these bills are all about. I think it would just really give people, especially in the 69th district here, a little transparency as to what goes on up there, right? And I know you can watch it on various, you know, the committee meetings, but to actually sit down just like this and talk to a legislator who really is passionate about a certain bill that they're maybe having trouble getting through or whatever. All right, let's talk about this. Let's let people know what's going on, and then people can then contact their other representatives and say, hey, you know, I like what this is. You know, I think you need to support this bill or whatever. So that's kind of, you know, what I'm looking at as far as future for the show. So, you know, we'll see how that goes.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it is.
I like the transparency and the way that you're, you know, willing to give information to people, because you know, that's a lot of times what people want.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And, you know, and I know people work, they've got kids, and, you know, and it's hard for them to sit down and really, you know, try to figure out what's going on. But if there's a media that allows them to maybe just turn on for, you know, 10, 15 minutes or so, they can just kind of really quick while they're cooking dinner or whatever, kind of see what's going on. You know, I think that's something that would be valuable to people.
I put it on a lot of times, and I'll put your show on, and I'll put, Michael Shepard's Your Vibes podcast, which is another good local show. I'll put those on, and I'll watch a little bit, but I've got like an iPad, and I'll sit it down, and
Right.
I'll be cleaning, or I'll be working out in my garage or whatever, and I'll listen to it that way. And it's kind of, you can do two things at once.
Right.
I know in the old days, people would probably meet up here on Main Street and talk and, go have a cup of coffee somewhere. But unfortunately, our lives are so busy these days that we're kind of relying on the internet and social media. And that's one reason why I put a lot of stuff on Facebook, Twitter, things like that. Is it's just more easily accessible to people.
Right.
And,
they carry it around in their hands.
so
You
you want to get it to them as fast as possible, though. That's one of the fastest ways,
absolutely.
I guess. So,
Absolutely.
kind of want to put you on the spot here. Not really, but there was some big news that broke yesterday, and I was wondering if you could talk to me a little about the process, because I've been really fascinated. I saw yesterday morning, I think it was the Dixon Herald, may have been the Dixon Post, so forgive me if I get it wrong. They may have both probably reported on it yesterday, but as we mentioned early in the show, Representative Curcio, he decided not to run for re-election, and he made that announcement, I think, back in March, just before the April deadline. And, of course, a lot of people got involved in the race. Well, it broke earlier this week that he was going to resign from his seat, which actually leaves it vacant. Now, I wasn't expecting that. I think a lot of people were expecting, just to kind of ride it out till the end. But he resigned, which leaves the seat open, which causes a little bit of a issue. We don't, have a representative right now. Now, I read in the paper yesterday that the county commission has exercised the option to sort of fill that spot. And June 20th, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly from what I read earlier, there will be a county commission meeting. And the way I'm understanding it, and I'll let you sort of explain it, but just about anybody can sort of be nominated. It doesn't have to be necessarily somebody that's already running. The way I'm reading it is, the public can nominate, the commission can nominate, whoever gets 7 votes. But take us through that from a county commissioner's point of view, because to me, this is very interesting. I don't recall this happening before.
Well, we've had to do this with, like when a county commissioner resigns, or,
or recently.
When something else happens or whatever. So and the process is the same. The public can nominate, but they can only recommend a nomination to the commission. The commission actually handles the nomination. So, like, if somebody from the public wanted to nominate whoever, they could only do that through the commissioner. Then the commissioner would have to actually nominate them. So, but you can bring, there's going to be a time where they can come up and represent themselves, or somebody else can represent them to kind of give why they would like to do this. Personally, I think the seat probably should be filled with somebody that's not running. It should be just somebody who maybe knows a little bit about that. But I don't know if it would be fair if for me it'd be fair if somebody running now would actually be nominated by 12 people to fill that position. So we'll see how it goes. Like you say, I think that's on the 20th.
Yeah.
So the public's invited, obviously, to every meeting, and I actually like it when a lot of people show up, But unfortunately, a lot of times it's only certain issues that people actually show up, But yeah, so that's happening on the 20th. So we'll see. I was really surprised about that too. By the way,
I was too. It kind of shocked me a little bit. I mean, I understand why they're doing it, but with the election being so close, it didn't dawn on me that maybe if the election was a year from now or a long way away, you would think, well, obviously we've got to fill that spot. With it being so close, I don't think it dawned on me until I read the article, and then it even said, it doesn't necessarily have to be filled from the same political party. And I know that, Representative Curcio was a Republican. You're running as a Republican. What are your thoughts on that? That, anybody can be put in there, even if it's a different party or independent?
Yeah. Well, the likelihood of them going into session is probably nil to none. But you never know, right? I mean, there could be some emergency come up that, that they would need, Dixon and Hickman, and actually part of Murray, because we're going under, this is under the old district, so it's half of Dixon, Hickman County, and part of Murray County.
Right.
Yeah.
And not the Lewis.
And not Lewis County, yeah.
So,
you never know. So, something could come up where the
So in other words, whoever they put in there, since we're out of session, they're, how much involvement would they really have as far as voting on things?
Nothing.
Right.
Yeah, and
So-
unless there was some kind of emergency or something, So it's just to fill a spot until the election, basically. So that's why I think a neutral party would probably be the fair way to do it, and hopefully, that's the way it'll happen.
Well, we've been going for a little while. I didn't start the timer on
Yeah.
my phone. I usually try to keep it under an hour. That way I can upload. If you go over an hour,
Yeah,
it makes
no,
it a little more complicated
right.
to upload,
Yeah,
right?
no,
So
yeah.
I think we're getting pretty close to that point. I do have a few closeout questions I want to ask you here. But just real quickly before we move on, is there anything as far as your policies or, political issues or anything that we didn't talk about that you would like to mention? Because, it's all about you. I'm just here to ask the questions. Is there anything that because you've been pretty thorough, but I just want to know if there's anything we left out.
Well, I was trying to think. Of course, again, my pro-education stance. Of course, I'm a pro-life person also. So, of course, with the Roe v. Wade leak, right, which has caused a lot of controversy in the country.
I don't know if you saw the attempted assassination
Yeah,
on
I know.
Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh. It's all getting very interesting.
Yes,
right?
it is. Yes, it is. And it's ridiculous that they're not have security around them like members of Congress do, right? So I don't understand that. But anyway, so yeah, I'm a very much a pro-life person. I believe life starts at conception. And if the Roe v. Wade is overturned, then it goes to the states for the decision, which is the way it should be anyway, right? So I'm in favor. Right now, I think Tennessee would revert back to a law that prohibits abortion. I've had some mixed things about that when I've tried to find out, Google that or whatever. But I would be in favor of a complete ban on abortion as a law in Tennessee. So now, when that happened, I wrote that on one of my Facebook posts, and some of the comments were very interesting, So I think people that are pro-abortion really speak out a lot more than people that are against abortion, So, yeah, I had some pretty interesting comments about that, But so yeah. So I'm pro-life on that. Of course, First Amendment, Second Amendment, pro-education, pro-life. Those are my pillars of what I represent as far as representative, and I'll support any bill that comes through that takes that stance. And I think pretty much in Tennessee, with a supermajority, that shouldn't be any problem. I think most people feel the same way.
So I've given you a chance really today to kind of expand on your views, but now I want you to be a little more concise.
Okay.
This is my favorite part of the show. This is where I like to ask people to give their elevator pitch, or in other words, 30 to 60 seconds. If I run into you on Main Street, and I'm sure you're going to get this a lot, you're going to run into people from time to time. We're here in the Reagan Arcade building, and so Main Street's just right out here, right? So you could walk out here, you could run into somebody and they say, "Hey, Jeff, how you doing, man? Heard you're running for office. I'm undecided. Why should I vote for you?" What would you say?
Well, I think, of course, my stance on, all the amendments, my pro-education stance, and I think everybody is pro-education. They want the kids to have a good education. The other thing is the transparency. I'm going to be very transparent. I'm going to be available to people. In fact, I've talked to the different people in Hickman County and Lewis County to let them know that I'm going to set up an office in both those counties also, that I'm going to man at least 1 or 2 days a month. That gives people access to somebody at the state level if they have concerns, that they have a place that they can actually go and actually physically talk to somebody. So I've made that kind of a commitment to them that I'm going to do that, and I will follow through with that and make sure that somebody is available for them to help them through whatever issues they have that maybe we can help them out at the state level. So transparency, I'm a conservative, so I'm always going to actually a conservative libertarian. So I'm a conservative, but I don't want government interfering with everyday people's lives. I talked to a business yesterday. You know, they're concerned about some of their tax liability. So at the state level, that's something we can do. I think that small business is the backbone of our whole state, really the whole country. You know, and if we can help them in any way to be successful, that's what we need to do at the state level, as far as taxing and as far as some of these other things that can help them with their business to be successful. Because if they're successful, then our community's successful, because then you have jobs for people in your community, you know, and it just goes from there, right? So, you know, transparency, being available, and helping out small businesses as much as we can. That's pretty much it.
So I know I've seen you out on the campaign trail doing a lot of different things, and it looks like you've been having fun and meeting a lot of people.
Yeah.
We've had, like, you know, the Promised Land Festival was recently. There's a fishing thing going on this weekend. Somebody was telling me about yesterday. The Dixon Street Festival is a big thing that's happening really soon.
Yeah, and I've got a booth there.
Okay,
also,
yeah.
Saturday,
Tell us where you're gonna be.
What's today? Thursday. Saturday, I'll be in Hohenwald for their street festival down there.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool. That's what I was going to ask you was, you know, any events that you're going to be at that you want to kind of plug? And
and then I think in Hickman County, I think it's July 4th. They're having a thing down there at their river. You know, when you cross the bridge, and there's a little golf area right there.
Yeah, down there.
That's where they have a lot of their events there. So they're having a big 4th of July festival there. So I'll be have a booth there.
I went to a banana pudding.
Yes, they have
festival
that
down
there too
at that spot.
Yeah.
Best banana pudding ever.
Yep.
And lots of it.
One thing I've noticed about Hickman County is they really try to do things big, like their even their Memorial Day, you know. And of course I spoke at the one here in Dixon, so I couldn't make it out to the one in Hickman County, but they make a really big ordeal out of it down there, and they really do. And they post a flag for everybody that's died in service or whatever. And then several weeks ago, we went down to Lewis County, where they had the dedication of their Veteran Service Office down there. And their War Memorial Building, it's like a memorial to the fallen. I mean, it's really incredible. In fact, Governor Lee was down there for the opening, and I got to talk to him a little bit. And but they really do a great job down there. So, yeah, so, you know, I try to make as many events as I can. Of course, you can't make them all because you got conflicts, you know.
It's tough sometimes.
Yeah, it is.
There's probably going to be some people who are listening who have a question that I didn't ask, and they may want to follow up with you later. What's some good contact information for you? Maybe a Facebook page, website?
Yeah, my Facebook is Jeff Eby for State Representative. My website is votejeffeby.com, and I've got emails on all those that you can contact me. In fact, my cell number's on all those too. So if somebody wants to call me, I'm available. That's part of what I want to be for people, right? So yeah, the votejeffeby.com has all of my stuff on there, and you know, kind of what I stand for and all that. So be looking for me out on the campaign trail. We're getting ready to start doing some you know, door to door, kind of meeting people and stuff. And I got some mailings getting ready to come out. And so just watch for me. And, you know, if you're out there and see me and have a question, please stop and ask me, because I'm more than willing to talk to you.
Tell us one more time the office that you're running for, and if you know the dates in your head of when the election is.
August 4th is the primary. And I think it's actually November 3rd is the general election, I believe.
Either 3rd or 8th.
Yeah, something like that. I can't remember.
I'm
just concentrating on the 4th.
It's a long way away, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's right there at the beginning of November.
Right. So, so August the 4th. So I encourage everybody to get out and vote, you know. That's the way you can participate in this whole process. So hopefully the voter turnout will be large, and that will help me, I hope.
Well, thank you so much for having me in here. I truly appreciate it. You were so nice when I contacted you and asked you to meet me over in the office. You were really, really kind, and you said, why don't we just meet over here at my studio? And I said, well, that'd be great, you know, because I don't quite have the setup you have here, so I appreciate you being so willing to offer me the opportunity to record my podcast here, and having your producer and everybody show up, and you kind of went out of your way for it, and I do appreciate that. And it was kind of cool to have the Justin Spurlock show and Jeff Eby show kind of come together for like a crossover episode or whatever.
Right.
So thank you for answering the questions. I guess I'm good if you want to close out the show.
No, again, I appreciate you. I appreciate the opportunity. We were wanting to kind of do something like this anyway, so this kind of worked out. Excuse me. So, so thank you for coming over and spending some time. And we'll drop this show pretty soon. I think you're going to drop yours pretty soon.
We'll do it at the same time.
Yeah.
We'll put it out there. So.
People have questions, please contact me. I'm sure you're available for contact. So
absolutely. If anybody would like to be on my show, you just send me a message on social media or contact me through email, coachspurlock@gmail.com.
There you go. There you go. So thank you again for watching the Jeff Eby Show with our special guest, Justin Spurlock. Please like and share this video. If you're on Facebook, and like and give me the thumbs up on YouTube, and also on Spotify, you can listen to this podcast also. Again, thank you. This is kind of our last show for this season, so look for me when I win the election to start having shows at the state capitol, where I'm really looking forward to that. So stay tuned and get out and vote, and we will see you later. Hi, I'm Jeff Eby, and I'm running to be your state representative in District 69. I will provide leadership and a voice at the state level for our community. I've been an active leader in Dickson County for 25 years, and I've seen our district continue to experience change, but oftentimes your voice just isn't heard. That will change with my leadership. As a two-term county commissioner, we built the County Justice Center and the Burns Middle School, all while maintaining a budget surplus. We were able to secure additional funding for all of the volunteer fire departments to get the vital equipment that they need to do their job. I fought on the front lines in Iraq. With your vote, I'll fight on the front lines in our community to give you a voice. So today I ask for your vote for state representative in District 69. Together, our voices can continue to have an impact on our community for positive growth and change. Let's do this together.